If you guys enjoy what I do, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe. It really helps the channel and it's free and easy to do. Before we get started with today's video, I have an announcement to make. After years of telling other people's stories, I finally released one of my own. My novel Eternal Reign is available now in both ebook and paperback format for those of you who are like me and prefer to collect physical media. You can grab a copy right now on Amazon through the link in the description of this video. And now back to our regularly scheduled program. At the Marauders Guild in Limsa Mensa, where the Warrior of Light was a member, the Guildmaster Wernzone, one of the many Roganin who have names that come from randomly slapping your keyboard, has been waiting for you. He has a mission that's only suitable for the best member of the guild, which is you. A friend of his who's been working as a guard out in Costa del Sol needs some reinforcements because the fighting out there has gotten pretty heavy. The fact that he's asking for help means a lot since the man's no slouch with an axe. He's already sent Soquib out there to take care of the injured, so she'll let you know what's going on when you get there. The fighting turns out to not be what you'd expect. A very large pack of very large turtles are attacking everyone and everything in the area, and their massive numbers have overwhelmed the guards. Your mission is to figure out what's causing them to swarm and of course to deal with it, so you head to the northern shore where you and Soquib see a seemingly feral red-eyed axe-wielding Roganin who roars, causing a swarm of massive turtles to charge the shore. You won't be able to track the man down until you deal with the critters, so the two of you get to work cutting down their numbers. There's too many of them for even the two of you to take down, but a very big, oddly armored axe-wielding Roganin jumps in and helps the two of you cut the herd down. When the fighting's done, the man introduces himself as Curious Gorge before promising to kill you in a very brutal way if you make fun of his name. When he hears that you're members of the Marauders Guild and not just some common guards, he gets a bit more respect for you, and after seeing how well you use your axe, he offers to help you unleash the power of your inner beast as a warrior. When he mentions you becoming a warrior, Soquib actually gets kind of excited because she thought those ancient battle techniques were lost. They may have disappeared where she's from, but Curious Gorge and his tribe have been passing down those techniques for thousands of years. But their numbers are going down, which is why he came to your lands. He's out recruiting worthy candidates to learn the arts, and he thinks you'd make a good student, but he's not going to force you to join. He tells you to meet him at the Hidden Falls if you decide to take him up on his offer, and he leaves. Since it's such a rare opportunity, Soquib thinks you should take it. And as for Curious Gorge, she remembers hearing about a young marauder who had been a part of the company of heroes, and he fought with techniques that no one else in the company had seen before. When the group disbanded, he disappeared, and she wonders if Gorge is that same man. Either way, she knows that if she were you, she'd go to see what the man could teach. Naturally, the Warrior of Light heads off to see just what Gorge means about taming your inner beast. Curious Gorge knew you'd come. No one with your battle prowess would pass up the opportunity to learn better ways to hurt people, and you've already proven yourself worthy of a warrior soul crystal that's filled with the recorded history and skills of thousands of warriors. Those crystals have been passed on for generations to help guide people down the path of the warrior. Even more than that, once your inner beast awakens, the runes in the crystal will make you even stronger. More power always makes the Warrior of Light happy, and the fact that Gorge has found a worthy student to pass on the techniques to makes him happy too. So this is a win-win for both of you, more so for Gorge than you since he really hadn't expected to find a student since he left home before his own training was even complete. He brought some books with him that have the ancient knowledge of warrior techniques of the past, but he can't decipher them all. His brother can though, and he had left the village before Gorge to try and pass on the warrior techniques too, so Gorge needs to find him before he can really teach you some of the more deadly warrior techniques. He had been trying to translate the books while he searched for his brother, but a friend of his from back in the day when he was in the company of heroes had asked him to do him a favor, and he's been traveling all over the place looking for a feral beast that's been terrorizing the local villages. The thing just showed up out of nowhere, and from what people say, is super violent. Hunting that thing hasn't left Gorge with all that much time to read. He did translate a part that talked about an ancient set of armor that was forged in the fires of the Seven Hells, and marked with the same runes as the warrior's soul crystal. The armor was passed down from hero to apprentice for centuries, until one man threw all 5 pieces off of a mountain. No one has found the armor since. The books seem to have a bit of info on where the armor might be, but that'll take time to figure out. It'd be easier with his brother, but Gorge hasn't gotten any leads on him either. But now he does have a bit of training for you to do. There's a massive sandworm out in the Sagoli Desert that won't go down to any regular old axe swings. You'll have to call on the savage strength of your inner beast to be strong enough to bring it down, But first you'll need to find it, and for that you'll have to talk to the U tribe that lives out in the Forgotten Springs, since they keep tabs on the creature's movements. The members of the tribe that you talk to have seen the giant worm, and they think it's a horrible idea for you to go and mess with it. But on the quest for power, common sense is a weakness, so the Warrior of Light chooses not to use his, and goes to fight this thing. He kills it, completing his mission, and heads back to Gorge to let him know. The man's impressed by the fact that you were strong enough to take down the creature, but he's a little irritated with himself since he's spending all of his time reading and not honing his own skills. But he has been learning some interesting stuff, like why his clan was shunned by the outside world. After seeing how good his people were with an axe, the city-states started to add in the warrior techniques into their own training so they could call on their own inner beasts. It worked, and the soldiers became nearly unstoppable, but they also became feral and would attack any and everyone they saw. The leaders of the city-states blamed Gorge's tribe for this, and they banned the warrior arts and arrested anyone that they thought was teaching it. The odd thing is, Gorge's brother had never mentioned their people's dark history, and he's never seen any of his tribesmen go feral while drawing out their inner beasts, so it makes him wonder if the ancient books might be wrong. It's even possible that they were written by one of his tribe's enemies. True or not, those stories ruined his tribe's reputation, and Gorge plans on doing something about it. That'll have to be done a little bit later though, because the fell creature that he was after has minions that have attacked Wineport, and Gorge figures that if the two of you deal with the things, the people there will see that the warriors aren't something to be scared of and are actually valuable allies. It's a start, so the two of you head off to offer your help to the militia. The captain says they're way outmatched by the animals in their never-ending assaults, so they'll definitely appreciate your help. The two of you split up to fill in the gaps in the city's defenses, and after you deal with your side, you hear screams coming from inside of the village, so you head in to help deal with any of the creatures that made it through. Gorge is already there, and he takes down the stragglers without them hurting anyone, but when a warrior draws on the strength of his inner beast, their eyes glow red and a little girl screams out that Gorge is a monster, which doesn't sit well with him and he leaves looking depressed. The commander of the militia doesn't understand why Gorge left looking sad. While he fought like a demon, the people aren't actually scared of him. The captain will make sure of that, and he wants you to let Gorge know too. Gorge understands why the girl was scared. Even though he was in control, a big axe-wielding red-eyed giant is a pretty scary thing to see. That look could be what caused people to be scared of his tribe in the first place and not necessarily anything that they did. But Gorge won't know for sure until he does a bit more research. He did notice that your soul crystal is glowing, which means it probably has more knowledge to share with you. Apparently his hasn't glowed in a while, and he doesn't actually know why. After studying the old books some more, curious Gorge finds some clues to where the lost armor of his ancestors might actually be. Apparently after the hero had thrown the armor off of a cliff, 5 of his students went to find it so they could restore their master's good name. They managed to find the armor, but when they tried to hand the pieces over, the power of the armor drew them in, and none of them wanted to let go of their piece. They realized that if each individual piece had the power to warp a mind, putting all of them together would do unimaginable damage, so they decided to keep them separate. They went on and lived their lives, but when they got old, they went back to the spot where they achieved their greatest victories and buried their pieces of the armor to make sure no single warrior found them all, and the pieces should still be there now. The armor Gorge is wearing is a replica of the ancient armor minus the arcane enchantments that give it its power. Now if you bring all 5 pieces of the armor together, it could corrupt the person wearing it, but Curious Gorge thinks that if the full set of armor's runes are painted onto each and every warrior's armor, that should give them all the same strength level, so none of them will get drunk on their own power. That just sounds like a good way to make an army of feral warriors to wreak havoc on the world, but maybe that's just what I think. The Warrior of Light apparently doesn't think the same because he agrees, and the two of them split up to go and track down the pieces. After spending a lot of gil teleporting all over the place, the Warrior of Light finds his 3 pieces and heads back to Gorge, who can see the power of the armor you found resonating with your soul crystal. He had found one of the pieces himself, but when he put it on, he didn't feel anything, and he's not exactly sure why. While he tries to figure out why he didn't feel anything from the armor, he sends you to get another piece that's not far away. By the time you make it back with piece number 4, he's figured out why the armor didn't work for him. The armor draws its power from the runes and the inner beast of the wearer working together, but ever since the incident in Wineport, Gorge's soul crystal hasn't glowed at all. It's like he's lost his connection to it. If what he read in the old tomes is to be believed, if someone puts on that armor with a weak soul, their power will consume them and make them turn into mindless monsters that will lose themselves permanently. The only way to fix them is to kill them. He thinks the armor knew that would have happened to him, so it shut itself down to keep him from going feral, which is good since he didn't actually want to die. He also had decided to leave the last piece of armor where it was. Considering the fact that the breastplate is the most powerful piece, it's the most dangerous, and since he's not really in control of his abilities, he didn't think carrying it around was the best idea. He doesn't even know if you should go and get it, but if you feel like you can handle it, he'll tell you where it is. Since when has the Warrior of Light ever shied away from new gear even when it was dangerous to get? Of course he wants it. So Gorge tells him where it is, but he also warns you that if you feel even a little odd, you need to throw the armor away, preferably off of a high cliff. He's trying to fix the image of the warriors, and having you go feral and start killing folks isn't the best way to do it. The breastplate is out in Kurthus, and Gorge decides that he won't go with you to get it, but he must have changed his mind, because after you find it, he shows up and takes it from you. Despite what he said, he can't bring himself to trust an outsider with the fate of his tribe. If you can't control it, you'll ruin everything, and he just can't risk it. He knows you might feel slighted, but he had to do what he had to do. And of course, he doesn't plan on putting the armor on either, not until he's ready. But that'll have to wait. Apparently the monster that Gorge has been hunting for has been seen around Wineport, and from what the people say, it's actually a man, which makes all of this even worse. But it does give Gorge a chance to show the people of Wineport that he's not a monster, so the two of you make your way back there. The militia captain is happy to see the two of you, since more fell creatures are attacking the town like something's drawing them to it. Gorge wants you to handle the creatures while he deals with the beast itself. Taking down the regular creatures is nothing, so once you're done, you head into the town to finally see that the so-called beast is another Rogadan. Not only that, it's Gorge's brother, who has apparently been consumed by the warrior's madness and is going on a rampage that is not helping with fixing the image of their tribe. Gorge tries to talk his brother down, but that doesn't work, so he proceeds to beat the crap out of him for tarnishing their image. During the fight, he loses himself as well and turns on you, demanding that you give him the armor. You can either give it to him or he'll kill you, so naturally you take option 3 and beat him until he calms down. Once he regains his senses, he admits that he had known all along that his brother had snapped, but he tried to deny it. He figured that if he could show that he was the stronger warrior, everyone would see that his brother had been corrupted because he was weak, not because of any inherent flaws in their tribe. But since the same thing happened to him, he has to accept that his tribe is flawed. They lost their focus on who they were, and their quest for strength at all costs actually made them weaker. Their power was fueled by rage, and that caused them to lose control. But it was different for the Warrior of Light. He could draw on his rage for strength when it was needed, then shut it off, which lets him control the power of the beast within. Gorge believes that's how the warriors of old were, but their anger at being shunned by the outsiders made them lose that. That's probably why the Soul Crystal chose you. It knew that you embodied the mindset of the warriors of the past, and would be a good person to help bring their order back. Now that Gorge has figured this out, he'll have to start his training over, and this time he'll do it with his brother. It'll take a while, but he'll never forget the help you've given to him, and neither will the people of Wineport. Since the last time the Warrior of Light saw Curious Gorge, he's restarted his training as a warrior so he won't lose himself to his inner beast like he did when he fought his brother. His brother, Broken Mountain, yet another Rogadan with a very unique name, has recovered from the incident, but he doesn't seem all that eager to start using his axe again. Now he spends more time studying magic and other stuff, but he still wants to spread his ancestors' teaching all across Eorzea. He recently sent Gorge a letter saying that he's found some more info about some ancient warrior techniques, so Gorge is about to go meet him at Camp Bronze Lake to find out exactly what he's found. Naturally, the Warrior of Light decides to tag along. The fact that the Warrior of Light is the only warrior known to have gained control of her inner beast made it pretty easy for Broken Mountain to remember her. He's been doing a lot of research trying to find a way to tame the beast like you did, but all he's found are better ways to use the power to kill stuff. Some of the stories that he's found are so ridiculous that he thinks they must have been made up. One story said that a guy named Mithrilheart was so strong that he ripped a behemoth's arm off with his bare hands, and that's not the most ridiculous story he's found. Regardless, Gorge wants to try and find out if Mithrilheart was actually real, since looking into it may help find a way to tame his inner beast like the Warrior of Light did. Even Wisecat doesn't think that Gorge should spend his time chasing after dead men, even though he doesn't think the guy or his feats were an exaggeration. Considering the fact that pretty much everything the Warrior of Light has done is unbelievable, Broken Mountain has to admit that the stories might be true. But he'd rather you see if you can find any proof of it, instead of having Gorge spend time doing that he should be using on his training. Since the Warrior of Light is farther along the warrior path than Gorge, and she wouldn't mind adding Mithrilheart's techniques to her arsenal, she agrees to look into the story. Since Mithrilheart's last journey took him to Silvertear Lake, it's very likely that the Sons of St. Coinach have dug up some information about him out in Mordona, so that's where you head. There are a lot of unclaimed artifacts from all eras out in the area, and the Sons are pretty sure that you can find something about the ancient warrior out there, but since they're more focused on Allagan relics than anything else, if they did find anything about him, it might have been left laying around somewhere. So the Warrior of Light starts to browse through their dig site, and she actually finds Mithrilheart's old axe. It looks exactly like the story said it did, which is more than enough to get Gorge excited, because if the stories are true, then maybe one day he'll be strong enough to rip a behemoth apart. His brother thinks that knowledge will be the best way to show the people of Eorzea just what warriors can really do, and it might actually get more people to train with them, which was always their goal. Since it finally doesn't seem like a waste of time, Broken Mountain starts looking for more info about Mithrilheart, while Gorge goes to try and get more control of his inner beast, because learning stronger techniques will definitely bring it out. It doesn't take too much time for Broken Mountain to find some information that should push your training forward, but before you dive into it, there's something else that needs to be taken care of. A dangerous creature has been seen out in Kurthus, and Broken Mountain wants to take the Warrior of Light and Gorge out there to deal with the thing. That seems like a bit of overkill, but he has his reasons, so you tag along on the simple assignment. By the time you get there, the two brothers have already dealt with the thing, but Gorge's inner beast is taken over him during the fight. So the Warrior of Light is forced to bring him back to his senses by repeatedly hitting him with her axe. The fight causes your own inner beast to try and take over you in a way that it never has before. But the Warrior of Light doesn't go on a rampage like Gorge, she just blacks out. When she wakes up, Gorge is back to normal, but him losing control of his power was the whole reason why his brother wanted to bring the two of you out there in the first place. He wanted to see if his brother had gotten strong enough to control his power. If not, he needed you there to smack Gorge around a bit until he calmed down. Considering the fact that he was getting ready to set you both on the path of learning better ways to kill stuff, it was a good idea to see if Gorge would lose control and attack his own allies once he started fighting. Until he gets his power under control, Broken Mountain refuses to let him train in Mithrilheart's techniques. Gorge isn't exactly happy about that, but it makes sense, and hopefully while you and Broken Mountain are learning more about Mithrilheart, he can find out why you can control your inner beast so easily while they can't. Even though he can't train with you, Curious Gorge decides to go and fight with the Maelstrom against the kobolds who keep attacking, but Wisecat sent a message saying that Gorge seems to be holding himself back instead of pushing himself and trying to master his powers. Broken Mountain thinks that seeing you show up with new techniques will help Gorge get his fighting spirit back, so he sends you out to test yourself against some creatures that Mithrilheart had hunted out in Abalanthia's spine. Apparently they have some grizzly bears out there that get as big as behemoths. Once you finish ticking off PETA by murdering a not quite defenseless animal, you head back to Broken Mountain to find out what your next task is. Both Wisecat and Gorge are there telling him about how the Maelstrom made the kobolds retreat, which should keep them from attacking for a while. Gorge tries to act like his usual upbeat self before he heads back off to train, but Wisecat had got reports from people who had fought beside the warrior, and they said that he seemed nervous the entire time. They thought he was scared of the kobolds, but he was still afraid of losing control of himself. As long as he's scared of himself, he'll never become a better warrior, and they need him to become better for more than just himself. The kobolds are getting more aggressive with their attacks, and the Maelstrom is spread too thin to contain them, so they're looking for new ways to add to their strength. A few squads trained in the warrior arts will do that, but not if they all end up with the same issue as Gorge. Broken Mountain studies show that fighting strong opponents brings out the warrior's inner beast, which is the easy part of all of this, but that doesn't help with the whole not murdering your friends part of it. He still has more books to go through though, so he hopes that he can find something in them that'll help. While he's doing his research, Wisecat comes to the Warrior of Light asking for help, because people always seem to need her for something. The Beast Tribe attacks are coming more frequently, and the Maelstrom needs some skilled fighters to help out. Since there are very few fighters of the Warrior of Light's level, naturally they would ask her to help. Gorge has already been helping fight the kobolds, but the Sahagin have been stepping up their attacks too. Since working for free is one of the Warrior of Light's favorite things to do, she heads to Elport to join in the fighting. The Serpent Reavers, pirates who work for the Sahagin, are trying to take over the Isles of Umbra, so they can have a good spot to launch an all-out attack on Elport. That would be bad, so members of the Maelstrom are heading out there to deal with them, and the Warrior of Light joins them to help put down the evil pirates. Once you've successfully completed that mission and made it back to Elport, the Maelstrom soldiers are not too proud to admit that they would have died if you weren't there, but they do want to know what pushes you to fight as hard as you do. When they hear that the Warrior of Light focuses more on keeping her allies safe than she does on killing the enemy, they start to think that their method of fighting just to be stronger than their opponent may not be the best way to really get stronger. Since that little side quest is done, the Warrior of Light heads back to Broken Mountain to tell him about the fight. After hearing about it, he starts to think that he understands the secret of controlling the warrior's inner beast, which he thinks will help Gorge, because he got hurt in the last fight with the kobolds and he's not exactly in the best mental state. Talking to you might help, so you go to check on him since he's been ordered to rest until his wounds fully heal. The kobolds had used some new type of bomb, and to save his comrades, Gorge had thrown himself on top of it. He should have died from the explosion, but him focusing on saving people instead of fighting let him draw out the full power of his inner beast, which made him strong enough to take the hit without taking all that much damage. That one action may have finally shown him the secret to controlling his powers. They still need to test it and see if focusing on protecting an ally instead of killing someone else is the key, since Gorge is still worried about losing control if they're wrong. The battle with the beast tribes is still going, and the Maelstrom still wants more help. The kobolds have been making a lot more of their bombs, and they plan on attacking Camp Bronzeleg itself, which is bad since there are quite a few people there. The Maelstrom wants to stop the bombs before they make it to the camp, and they want the Warrior of Light and Gorge to make sure the mission is successful. Gorge is still worried about losing control, but after the Warrior of Light tells him to stop whining and go do his job, he joins in and helps stop the attack without going on a rampage. He starts to think that he really has gotten a handle on the beast, but he won't know for sure until he tests himself in another battle. Fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, he won't have to wait long to test himself again. The Sahagin have used the fact that everyone was distracted by the kobolds' attack to attack the Tide Gates, and the Maelstrom doesn't have any troops to send to defend them. Broken Mountain is sure that if people using the warrior arts manage to fend off this attack, then the world's view of their people will change for the better. And this time he's not going to sit back and let his brother fight alone. He's not going to pick up an axe again, but he does have other ways to help out. Since things are a bit desperate, Wisecat's going to join in the fight too, and even the Admiral's right-hand man, Mistbeard himself, decides to join you all, just so he can see the strength of the warriors with his own eyes. During the fighting, Gorge proves that he actually can finally control his powers, and since the warriors proved to be a serious force to be reckoned with, Mistbeard offers Curious Gorge and his brother a position with the Maelstrom, training more people in the way of the warrior, which is exactly what they've been hoping for this whole time. This concludes the Heavensward portion of the warrior story. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like it, comment, share it, and subscribe. Grab a copy of my novel on your way out, and I'll see you all next time.